Never mind. Nothing comes for free in this world, but the loss is not without its purpose. For a small price, we have wasted a precious amount of the limited time they have. Quite a bargain, if you ask me. Weighing profit against loss is a necessary part of life. But to tell the truth, I have been operating at a loss since this all began. Since many centuries ago, in fact. For instance, why would a banker act as the executor of a will? If you hadn't deposited your personal belongings at Northland Bank, I would have no reason to be here right now. Dottore, I've placed your final data backup into the ley lines as per our contract. I trust we are now square for the safe deposit fees you paid.
Is it not a little petty to split hairs like this, given our amicable relationship?
I consider sound bookkeeping a matter of principle.
Do not forget that you only live to see this day thanks to me. In fact, every day of your life since you met me, you've been living on borrowed time.
Why, that's hardly a fair assessment. I will concede that my survival was perhaps at your whim, but I became a harbinger on my own merits. Managing money is not like other professions. Mine is not a role I could have acquired based on your recommendation alone, and certainly not one I could have lasted so long in without genuine ability.
The information stored in the ley lines is quite comprehensive. Rest assured, I have not forgotten how strong your pride is. Well, I presume you have no sense of fragmentation while talking with me?
How could anything possibly go wrong with such strict measures in place? The remainder of your soul was split in two, with one half sent to Nodcry and the other stored in the most secure vault of the Northland Bank. Though I must say your disdain for the other segments is quite amusing. Zandik is you, and you are Zandik. Zandik created the segments, yet you, a segment yourself, reject him.
That is, Zandik, created segments of various ages in his later years. To achieve this, he had to freeze time and part with a portion of his soul. But as constructive as it sounds, it erases my uniqueness. If each segment is equally me, then by the same token, none of them are truly me. A soul living forever in the past inevitably holds different views than he did in his later years. The same thing that completes me also restricts me. You too might ask yourself which stage of your life you want to be preserved at. The day your business failed? Or the day you were framed by a gang and sold off to a medical lab as a test subject?
We needn't dredge up the past.
This undesirable plan was eventually scrapped. Lesser Lord Kusanali was quite right. I needed an opportunity to eliminate myself. And after that, I concluded that there was no more effective plan than directly splitting the soul. Once the soul is transferred out, you will find that creating a physical body is far simpler than creating a puppet.
The other half of your soul suffered a crushing defeat in Nodcry, you know.
And yet in the process, I obtained the information I always wanted, did I not? Because now we finally know where the best testing ground truly lies.
I once thought your ultimate goal was to ascend to godhood, but as it turns out, that was merely one of your experiments.
Experiments take many forms. Most people are too eager for success, too fixated on the end goal. They forget that the experimental process itself is just as important. A suspiciously vacant seat, a new face. I trust you can put two and two together. The reason it doesn't exist is because someone tampered with the record.
What can I say? After all your efforts, you really did uncover the world's secrets. So, is the new world you promised a lie?
No, it never was. I am glad to be able to control Ermin's soul from within. Now I shall attempt to create a new world inside the existing one. Almost everyone faces the prospect of death, but not a single person has ever been able to experiment unrestrained in the afterlife through sheer force of will. I am the only one to have overcome this enormous challenge. Would I not be letting the world down if I didn't make the most of the opportunity to experiment?
Clearly, the dividing of your soul did not affect the magnitude of your ego. Out of all the versions of you that have ever existed, this you is the most insane and the most radical.
Is that why you chose to work with me? Which was it then? My insanity? Or my radicalism?
Could I call myself a venture capitalist without a suitably ambitious plan to invest in? Yours happened to fit the bill quite perfectly.
Well then, I must say, while I am surprised enough that you showed up at all, what surprises me more is that you chose to present yourself as my former subordinate, and not as the banker Pantalone.
Why make things harder than they need to be? Exposing my true identity in a situation like this would only serve to destroy diplomatic relations between Snezhnaya and Sumeru. I daren't imagine the consequences. Showing up in the name of the original antagonist gives you the recognition you rightly deserve, while also being sensitive to Snezhnaya's predicament. It was an easy win. As for why I'm here, if you're suggesting that your credit is in the negative, I won't argue with that. Many people say that about you.
I'd argue that a significant factor in your willingness to cooperate is the fact that you have but a few years of life left after my death. Living and dying together has a way of binding two parties together rather closely. Is it not true that a relationship should be judged by both the positive and negative returns it yields?
So some of what I said actually made it into your head after all. It's true that I hope you don't die too soon, but don't you find that a strange thing for me to say? After all, you've already had quite a long life, especially for a human being.
Let's not pretend that you're any more innocent than I am. Are we not the same in this regard? We both despise the existing laws of this world, and neither of us enjoy being under anyone else's control.
Is it really so greedy to want the world to operate by a new set of rules?
Of course not, my dear friend. And as I've said before, mutual interest is the foundation for the most reliable of relationships. You can attest to that.
I just hope there never comes a day when I have to work too hard to prove that. How strange. Despite your access to Irminsol's data, it appears the soldiers noticed before you did. They must have found a workaround. Well, Dottore, I trust you know what this means. The fact is,
they're coming. They'll breach the city gates any moment now.
but even so, I would say Irminsol is a wonderfully convenient thing on the whole. If you do manage to create a new world, perhaps you could plant one outside my office, too.
I'll consider it.
What do you need me to do? Stall them?
The experiment will take time. Stall them for as long as possible.
Very well, but you're really asking for the moon here. Have you heard this story? There was once a guilty man, kneeling in the center of a church while an angry mob outside waited to bring him to justice. He pleaded with the gods, begging them to grant him one final request, the chance to finish confessing his sins before he was sentenced. Many suns and moons passed, seasons changed, and still his confession continued, as if he intended to speak until the end of time.
Are you suggesting I worship you as a god? Or were you hoping that I might confess my sins to you?
Certainly not the latter. That would make my life miserable indeed.
For someone who despises them so, you never seem to have any objections to me creating or becoming one. At first, I thought you'd be furious.
Concerned I would terminate our partnership, were you?
Not at all. You had reasons why our partnership must continue.
Don't you find people's attitudes toward gods amusing? A god descends from the heavens and people worship it unreservedly, blindly following whatever rules are given to them. And yet, when they see an ordinary person gain godlike levels of power by virtue of their own hard work, they treat him with nothing but suspicion, even if he is a compatriot.
Is that supposed to be a compliment?
No, I was just thinking. I pity the man who would call you a compatriot.
There's no need to be so self-critical. I know it's a little late in the day to be asking this, but how have you been keeping?
I'm flattered that you would take the time out of your busy schedule to consider my well-being, Doctor. The part of your soul that went to Nodcry caused quite a stir, sending our organization back to the drawing board on numerous fronts. It was quite a headache for everyone involved.
Dear me, I must have caused you no end of trouble.
You certainly did. I had the rare honor of being summoned before the Tsaritsa with Pulcinella to answer for myself. A terrifying ordeal. Don't worry, I pulled through. At most, it's a public relations nightmare. I made sure of that.
Now I'm curious. How did you explain yourself?
Oh, it was quite simple. I just pinned the blame on someone who wasn't there to defend himself. I could hardly be expected to defy the demands of someone as insistent as the Second Harbinger, now could I?
How you slander me. You know full well that I am perfectly amenable to reason. There's no question that you are partly to blame for the ruin of my reputation over the years. Do you have anything lined up for when this is all over?
Hard to say. Field work always takes quite a toll on me, as you know. Once I'm back at Snezhnaya, I'll start with a well-earned cigarette.
Why are you so eager to ruin your lungs after I went to the trouble of replacing them for you?
If you have an issue with it, feel free to try to stop me. What's on your mind?
The limits of humanity. It's a pity. Despite running countless calculations, I find there is simply no way to reduce any further the amount of one's soul required to sustain an individual.
It's rare to hear you admit to being unable to achieve something.
I beg to differ. For instance, as I've told you before, the original me was prone to motion sickness and couldn't make long train rides.
Ah, yes, of course. One of the reasons you often sent yourself out on errands. What are you thinking about now?
A new experiment. In the event that my soul was depleted, say we extracted my data from someone else's memories, yours for instance, and then combined it with your intact soul as the base material, what would we create?
Such a scenario would be impossible.
Oh?
As long as your current soul survives, there will be no need to create a new individual. Don't forget, you were the one who approved of the present situation wherein only one Dottore remains. And if you ceased to exist, who would be capable of performing this experiment?
Since the day I met you, you've always excelled at talking your way out of a quandary.
Isn't it a little too early to be saying goodbye? Not that I wish to keep you from your business, of course. Very well. Let's leave the conversation there for now.